Okay, the DJI Intel Rise Tello. Let me explain. Okay, so the drone was produced by the company Rise. Up front, they have the DJI digital camera system like in all the DJI drones, and then it also has an Intel processor on the inside which helps it stay level in the air without tipping over. Now, basically what that means is that most drones will hover in one spot using GPS. Now, this little guy, he doesn't have GPS. It has two IR sensors on the bottom. So instead of tracking its geolocation and staying in that one spot, the two IR sensors will shine light down at the ground, and based on how far away the ground is, it'll stay in that spot and at the same elevation. It'll actually float up if you put something under it, and it'll kind of correct itself in a slight breeze. This has its upsides and downsides though. The upside is that it's a lot smaller and cheaper to produce, but the downside is it can't fly in the dark. If you try and fly it when it's even slightly dim out, it'll give you a red notification on the app saying, hey, it's too dark out. And then if you ignore the notification and take off anyway, it'll just kind of drift to one side until it runs into something. I learned that the hard way. It does a good job of fighting the wind, but if a decent gust comes through, it'll carry it away because it's so light. The drone is 3.6 inches wide and 3.8 inches long, with the propeller guards on, and you're going to want to keep them on or else you'll snap some propellers like I did. It comes with replacement propellers, and you can always buy some extras online. It has a 5 megapixel camera up front, more on that later, and then right next to that there's an LED indicator. That'll show you charging and connection status and stuff like that. You have a micro USB charging port on one side, and then there's a button on the other to turn it on. Around the back is where you insert the 1100 milliamp hour battery, and believe me, you're going to want to buy one of these guys, which is a little charging case that can charge 3 batteries at a time, because you're going to be running through these really quick. They only last for about 13 minutes of flight time. On top there's a removable cover. I painted mine black, but it comes in white, and then you can also buy neon yellow and blue ones. If you take off that cover, it does reduce the weight of the craft, and then you can see inside where the battery sits and then some of the housing for the camera. Now this camera, it's definitely interesting. It takes decent photos and 720p video. The major problem with the video is that in the app, it defaults to the lowest video bitrate, which gives you a lower quality. You then have to go into the app and move up your bitrate every single time because it doesn't save your settings, which, as you can imagine, gets really annoying. The camera also has something called digital image stabilization, which, if you're not familiar, means that if the camera will like wobble a little bit in midair, it crops in on that image and keeps it stable. That means the shakier your drone is in the wind, the less pixels you're getting in your final shot. So to get the absolute perfect video with this drone, you need 3 things. It needs to be A, outside at a perfectly bright time of day. 2, you need to remember to manually turn up your video bitrate. And then 3, there needs to be no wind whatsoever. And as you can imagine, those 3 things aren't going to happen simultaneously very often. Okay, let's say you've somehow captured the perfect shot with these conditions. You go into the app to download your brand new perfect video. And if you try to click on the video to preview it before you download it, the app crashes. That's less than ideal. Basically, the app will show you the thumbnails for the videos, but you can't actually click on them to like watch them. You have to download them and then watch them in the Photos app. I don't know if this is a problem on Android, but it's certainly annoying. The overall experience on this app is pretty crappy for an app that was built 3 years ago and has plenty of times for fixes. Again, I don't know if this is just an iOS thing, so if you have this app on Android, please tell me down in the comments. The main function of the app is pretty good though. Using touch controls to control a drone is not as bad as people say it is, especially if you're starting out. You've got your record or photo button, the switch button between photo or video, and the media button. On the left you have settings and takeoff button, which turns into land once you're in the air. You can also choose to land it on your hand, which is so sick. Just the ability to be out in public flying around your drone, everybody's watching you, and then you hold out your hand and the drone perfectly lands on your hand. It's a power move. Now this third button in between, that's where it gets fun. These are called modes, which are just different things that the drone can do, and there's 8 of them. Let's run through them real quick. Number 1, throw and go. You can just throw the drone out level and it'll auto-correct itself and start flying instead of just taking off the ground. That's the feature that'll get the most looks, just chucking out a drone and it'll start flying. Up and away. It'll start recording a video while flying about 6 feet backwards and up. This is a pretty cool feature, and something that I realized is that if you do that and then reverse the footage, you can actually get a cool zoom in effect. 360. Self-explanatory, probably the most useless feature. It just kind of spins in one place, kind of shows you all of your surroundings. The only thing I can say about this is that I was testing out this feature and a guy came up to me in his car and tried to sell me drugs. Circle. The camera will select one point in the middle of the screen and attempt to circle around it. It does a pretty crappy job of staying on that point, but it's still a really cool feature. The effect is really cool of the circle, and I'm sure there's some really cool stuff some people could do with it. Bounce mode. Now it just bounces up and down in one place. Now this might seem stupid at first, but if you throttle forward while doing bounce mode, you you get this cool like weaving FPV look, and it looks really cool. And last but absolutely not least is 8D flips. You activate the mode and just swipe in any of 8 directions and it'll do a flip in that direction. Now that is fun. A little side note is that all of these modes only work when you're above 50% battery on the drone, which pretty much means per battery you have about 6 minutes of goofing around and kind of impressing everybody around you, and then you have 6 minutes to get a really cool shot. Another thing you can do in settings is toggle your drone onto fast mode. What it's supposed to do is turn off image stabilization and then make your drone allowed to go a lot faster, like up to like 13 miles per hour, I read somewhere. It doesn't work on my drone. Just thought I would mention that. So overall, I would say this drone is pretty good at being a video tool, but it's also just as good at being a fun tool. Also, I forgot to mention this whole package right here, $99, and you can get it for cheaper in a lot of places. This battery pack thing was about $30, replacement props are about $5-ish, give or take, and then you can get some really cool, like, better prop guards for this, like a whole cage I was seeing on Amazon. So if you're looking into flying drones and you don't want to break the bank, buy this guy. That's all for today, guys. Party on.